Welcome to MILF,
I'm Courtney,
and I'm Jennifer.
and we are two moms into literary freedom. Hey, Jennifer, how's your Pride Month going so far?
Hey, Courtney, it's going pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm taking the news of the breakup pretty hard.
Oh, I know. It's so sad, isn't it? For Elon
Tragic.
and Donald to break up during Pride Month.
Horrible.
It's just such sad news, but it's super interesting to follow.
It's been very interesting.
Oh my God, I just thought of something. So you know how like they've been publicly airing their dirty laundry,
Mhm.
right? Which is like just the number one rule in a breakup is like don't air it publicly, right? It's just, it's just so funny, but like my daughter recently went through something similar where she's like in the middle of this group text with like probably like 12 different like middle school girls and they're and two of them are fighting and everyone they're like, can you guys do this in a separate chat?
Right. Like, why are we a part of this?
Yeah, and so like for a 12-year-old girl to be like see that that is inappropriate, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. And also, can we just say they love to say women are emotional?
Yeah,
And look at these two men, the most powerful men.
in the world. Unfortunately,
Unfortunately, yeah,
it
this
is
is,
true. We're not denying that.
and holy shit, that's embarrassing.
So embarrassing. God, I mean, I've been embarrassed to be an American for a very long time now.
Very.
So it doesn't really sting, like there isn't like a sting anymore. It's just like, oh yeah, here we go. It's just another Tuesday.
But it's like celebrity gossip. That's all they are.
Yeah,
It's not this is what it sounds like, celebrity gossip, and not the President of the United States of America.
it's awful. Yeah.
That's not presidential behavior.
No, no, no. There hasn't been a single ounce of presidential behavior since 2016. Like,
No, I mean, it's a circus and this is part of the show.
yeah. Hmm.
So he's living up to what he always has.
So we have a lot to talk about on this episode, honestly. Being that it is Pride Month, though, we are going to talk about a book called Stonewall, A Building an Uprising, a Revolution. Show you a picture here. For those of you watching on YouTube, those of you listening, you could watch this video on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/MILF for books, the number four. MILF, the number four books, if that wasn't clear. Um, but this was written by Rob Sanders, who is a remarkable children's author, and he's also a an elementary school teacher in Florida at a public
Oh,
school.
Florida.
Yeah. That like when I
He's
found that
still,
out, I was like, what?
right? Is he still teaching?
That's what I did. I immediately looked it up to see if he had gotten fired.
Right. How is he being allowed to still?
You have no idea. Books that this guy has written so far. He actually had one come out in March, which I already purchased and I'm super excited about. It's a children's book, but it's called Journey of a Book. It's a banned book journey.
Okay.
I think I'm getting the title wrong, but it's like basically the journey of a banned book, and it's like a picture book for kids. And then he also has one called Two Grooms on a Cake about the first gay wedding. He has one about the history of the pride flag and Harvey Milk. Um, and I mean, basically, he's just written all kinds of just really inspiring and accessible children's books or picture books about the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
And but in the light research and digging that I did, I couldn't find out if he was like, if he had a partner or like a male partner. Not that, it's any of my business, who he is with, but I'm curious because of the way that Florida and, the country as a
Right.
whole is treating teachers of the LGBTQ plus community or teachers that advocate for the LGBTQ plus community.
Right.
But in the research that I did, he's still working at a public school in Hillsborough County.
Ooh, and that's a dangerous one to be in.
Right. But then another site I saw said Orlando. Is Orlando in Hillsborough County?
No, Hillsborough, I think is further, it's more coastal, right?
Hillsborough is a huge county, so
I
it's
know
kind of
it's
yeah.
close. It's
Orlando is Orange County.
right.
So I don't know. I couldn't. maybe he switched schools because I did see
Yeah,
one website said Orlando, another website said Hillsborough, one website said, public school, and then another one said magnet, but you can be a magnet school in a public district. So
right.
I
Okay.
don't know. But either way, he's still teaching. And I would assume that, he is forced to leave his LGBTQ plus books out of his classroom according to the Stop Woke Act, because it would technically be illegal. So I reached out to him on Instagram and asked him if he would come on the show and tell us about it.
Any response?
No.
Oh, damn. All right.
But
Now we got to shoot our shot.
hey, I don't give up very easily. I'm gonna find his email. I'm gonna I'm gonna
Stalker alert.
I'm gonna try not to alarm him.
You want me to get his address? I'm really good at getting people's addresses. We could send him a letter.
We could
That
just
won't freak him
we're
out
not
at
that
all.
far away. We can just go on a
We could
field
just show
trip.
up on his doorstep.
We can just go to a school.
No, nothing weird about that.
Just kidding. We're not
Maybe.
stalkers. Oh, he actually did have an author, like a reading, like how they do that at book shows, not shows, stores, bookstores.
Yes,
I was about to say like book concerts. It's like a concert for a book. Um, he had a concert for his book
I
in
would go.
uh in Tampa.
Oh,
It was on April 27th. Obviously, we can't go to that because that was months ago, but we could look for more in the future and take a little road trip down to Tampa, ask him to sign a copy of the book.
and maybe Hillsboro's more up that way on Tampa's coast.
Yeah, it's more near Tampa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't me and maps, in
Mm-mm.
counties, don't ask me
Yeah.
where anything
So,
is, but I
yeah.
have heard of it and I know
Okay.
it's
Yeah. Well,
area.
you've heard of it because it's like the one of the leading counties in book bans.
Yeah,
That and
that too.
Brevard. Yeah.
Yep,
Um,
that too.
yeah.
Okay,
But
Brevard is who I was thinking of that's down further
Brevard is like
south from
Space
us.
Coast,
Yes, yes.
East
Okay.
Coast.
I was
Hillsborough,
confusing those two.
yeah. The counties in Florida are huge though, so it's really hard to like
Mhm.
pinpoint. But
Yeah.
anyway, I
On
am go ahead.
You mentioned Harvey Milk,
Mm,
right? And did you hear the news when you mentioned it, it triggered the memory
mhm.
that Trump, I don't want to say Trump directly, but I think it's the
Allegedly,
Navy allegedly plan to have the Navy or the, I don't know,
military.
military, thank
Yeah,
you, the military,
got it. I'm here
like
for you.
strip any mention of him from
Oh yeah,
records. And he made sure to coincide it with June 1st, the beginning of Pride Month.
yeah.
Like
I'm
it
not
wasn't
surprised at all.
accidental.
Yeah, this is all like a lot of the stuff that this administration is doing is like purely symbolic. I'm not going to say that it's harmless because it is harmful in that it is telling these like hateful, bigoted people that it's okay to treat a certain group of people with less respect than other groups of people just because of who they love. So it is definitely harmful, but in the sense of like, outlawing gay marriage, like we're not there yet. I mean, I think
Right.
I'm sure there's some piece of legislation out there somewhere that would say otherwise, but what I saw is like there's like a list of names for, I think you were right when you said Navy, because there were names for future boats or boat. So one of them was, I think, Harvey Milk. Another one was Harriet Tubman. Can you hear my kids screaming right now?
No,
Okay, that's a great
promise
microphone.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, they're not allowed to come downstairs during the podcast. But I can't think of any other names right now off the top of my head. Of course, I saved it in our podcast collection on Instagram. But
But
yeah,
it's
maybe
hard
that's
to
what you
find
were
anything
thinking.
because there's like a million things saved.
Yeah, there's so much. It's just, and I was thinking about this in the shower the other day because that's where I do most of my important thinking. Um, and I was feeling really overwhelmed. And I was like, how am I supposed to like have energy to be a mom and also like have this podcast and
Mhm.
like keep working at my job so that like I can bring in, because I still have a full-time job. I mean, it's technically part-time, but like it feels like it's full-time.
Yeah,
Like I don't have the energy for all of this stuff. Like how am I supposed to um, you know, care about like all of these things without just like breaking down? And I remember someone once somewhere said that you just pick one thing to focus on, knowing that someone else has picked the other thing to focus on. And if
Mm,
we all just like have that in the back of our minds, like, right now this month, like I'm focusing my energies on, spreading information about unlawful ICE raids and detentions, right? That doesn't mean I don't care about what's going on in Palestine, right?
right.
It just means that like that's just where I can devote my energies. Meanwhile, you have people like Greta Thunberg and others who are devoting their energies right now, into what's going on in Palestine. So that kind of helped me kind of not break down.
Yeah, no, that is helpful
Mhm,
because it's true. Speaking of Gaza,
mhm.
sometimes I'm like, have I forgotten about Gaza? And
Right.
it's not that I haven't. It's just that so much is happening here right in front of my face that like I'm kind of laser focused on this as
Hmm.
well. And
Yeah.
obviously immigration is a big deal to me
Right.
personally. Um,
Exactly.
so it's not that yeah, 100%. I do feel that sometimes. Like, am I doing enough? I'm not doing enough. I still don't think I'm doing enough, but I'm doing the best that I can.
Yeah.
And I
I
think,
hear you.
yeah,
I think we're doing more than a lot of people. Not to like pat ourselves on the back, but there's nothing wrong with patting ourselves on the back because, we're at least like spreading awareness about it and having these like hard conversations on the air, so to speak, so
yeah,
that hopefully as to encourage other people to have these conversations. Um, and like what to do if you do see an unlawful ICE raid happening,
yeah,
um, for example, and also another completely different issue that has been, causing me anxiety is the public education cuts because, and this is very personal to you as a parent and to me as a parent, but also as a former educator that like, they're beginning. This is the beginning of the end for public education on a nationwide scale. And they're really being sneaky about it and they're tricking us. So I've been reading a lot about like reading in between the lines because like what did they do? They like released a press release and then they also released something else that was different. And it was like the two things were completely different. And it was like one thing said one thing and then the other one said the complete opposite. But basically they're getting rid of it.
and basically what they're doing is causing confusion,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and they get away with it all the time.
Hmm. But I actually have, oh yeah, this was in the Big Beautiful Bill. That's right. So this connects to the Big Beautiful Bill, which again is
There's nothing beautiful about
it's
it.
the real name for it.
Yeah, no, I know it's scary. And this is what caused the breakup between
Oh
Elon
yeah.
and Trump, right?
Man, we are jumping all over the place here, but it is all
They
connected.
all connect. Yeah.
It is one just ugly spider web of emotions.
It's,
Yeah. So I guess let's go back to the Elon and Trump thing for now. Yeah, because that is talk about layers. Oh my God. So Elon's pissed because they took out something about electric vehicles, right?
right.
And they kept the subsidies for big oil,
Right.
which can I explain what a oil subsidy is? This is a rhetorical question. Actually, no, it's not. There's a real answer. The answer is no, I cannot.
Okay. I was gonna say please do because
No.
I don't understand it fully.
The the extent of my knowledge about that is uh big oil gives money to politicians in exchange for bill shit like this.
Right.
So in
In exchange
exchange,
for the taxpayer to give it back to them.
exactly. Yeah. So it's like, oh no, we're not gonna cut any money from big oil, right? Because they funded my campaign. That's all I know. Like
Right.
that's all I can say. I do want to learn more about it, but God, there's just so much to read. Um, and Substack is a great place to become informed if you follow like certain people, like Sharon McMahon. She is very informed, a very well informed person. She wrote a book. She's like she calls herself, or they call her, the country's like government teacher because she was
Okay.
literally a teacher. She taught US government and now she's like teaching the country. She's pretty awesome.
Now that you mentioned that, also, Harvard is giving out
Oh yeah.
free history lessons, right?
Hmm.
On the US. which I've been meaning to sign up for so that I could say I'm a Harvard student.
Or I'm gonna write this down. So Harvard classes, is it on Black history or is that a different thing that I'm thinking of?
That's a different one. I think that's here in Florida, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna look that one up. I think there's like a bookstore in Jacksonville. Can you look that up real quick while I'm talking
Yeah,
about
because you
it?
sent me that, I think, and I was like, oh yeah, Harvard's doing something similar.
Oh, it's actually happening tomorrow.
Oh, we won't be able
But
to make
I think we're going
Cafe
to,
Resistance,
yes, and that's in Jacksonville or Orlando.
Jacksonville.
So Cafe Resistance free Black history lessons, but I think it's a monthly thing. I don't think it's just one time.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll put that in our show notes. The first one is tomorrow. Uh, you'll probably be listening to this podcast though after that. Though that won't do you any good. But that kind of stuff, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What were we saying before that? Forgot.
We were talking about like the cuts to education
Oh,
and
true.
subsid
Yeah.
subsidies. Can I say
Oils.
that?
Yeah. We're talking about why Elon was so pissed off. Um, so that was part of the reason. And so they got into this fight back and forth. And then Elon decided to take away the spaceship that what does it do? Did you see that?
I didn't see that. Although I know like Trump was like, that's okay. We were planning on canceling all your contracts,
Yeah.
which is so
Yeah.
petty. Like, I mean, now that it's personal, you're gonna cut it. So it's not over budget, you know? It's never
hmm
about the budget. It's just
Yeah.
personal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then Elon drops the big bombshell that was not that big of a bombshell because we all knew
Epstein.
it. Yeah.
Sorry, we all knew that. And
Duh.
more than half of the country was clearly okay with him
Yeah.
being in cahoots with a fucking sex trafficker. So like that's not
Elon was okay
new.
with it until he was personally affected.
Yeah. And so when he dropped that bombshell, there were a lot of replies of like, this isn't the burn that you think it is. You being okay buddying up with a sex trafficker is not painting you in a good light, like until you're mad at him. Like that's not, and
Right.
like it clearly shows his lack of empathy or like
Hmm.
ability to have people skills, like or even learn. Like it's not like it's something he can't learn how to be empathetic to people. Like
Yeah.
that's just
Now
sociopathy.
it's showing that they're only in it for themselves. Like, duh, we all already knew that.
hmm
Hopefully MAGA starts to see it now that they were only in it for
You
themselves.
know what's really pissing MAGA off, and it's not this,
I
which
was gonna bring it up. Let's see if it's the same thing. Go.
it's the fucking database. Well, I guess it is
Yes.
this. Yeah, because Elon did it, right? So even though Elon is supposedly not a part of the US government anymore, he already did his damage, which is like super hacking or whatever. Just like everyone's information into this like huge database.
Well, I think they're contracting with, I wrote it down
Oh
here,
yeah.
Palantir or
Yeah.
Palantir to do a master database. And
hmm
the owner of that is a far right billionaire. His name is Peter Thiel.
hmm
And then I guess back in March, Trump signed an executive order having all the government agencies now share information with each other, making this
hmm
database easier to put together.
hmm
Um, and so yeah, and Palantir has gotten more than $113 million in government spending
No,
since
billions.
Trump. Billions?
Yeah, I read somewhere that it was like it equated to billions.
Probably.
Yeah, which is huge, like
Okay.
unfathomable. And it's all about money.
Mhm.
And interestingly, Palantir it's from the Lord of the Rings, which pisses me off, right? Don't take Lord of the Rings
Right.
and turn it
Right.
into something nefarious because the whole premise of the Lord of the Rings is like if you have this one ring that has so much power, right? What should you do with it? Should you give it to someone, quote, good?
Right.
And not to spoil it for anybody who's planning on reading it. And I don't, if any Lord of the Rings fans are listening, they're like, don't even talk about it. You don't know what you're saying. Because I'm not an expert, but
I've
you
watched the movie.
destroy things that are that powerful. You don't
Right.
give them to anyone. And so the
Because it
fact that this
corrupts
is
you, right? Is that like the idea?
what
No matter how good you are, you're corrupted by the power.
it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's like there's no such thing as someone who is like resistant to power. Like, sure,
Right.
maybe there's someone who's like better than others, right? But
Right.
in the end, you got to destroy it. And Palantir, this database, is evil.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be used for anything good. And we could already see how it's been damaging for ICE agents, like how ICE
Mm.
is using it now
Yeah,
with getting access to people's taxes, which again, why would ICE need the IRS's help in finding illegal immigrants if they don't pay taxes, supposedly?
yeah,
Make that make sense to me. MAGA, please.
right. But so going back to MAGA, like they're very upset about this because just to put it in perspective, like, and I didn't really know this because I'm not a gun person, but did you know that we're not allowed to have a database on gun owners?
I know they fight it, like,
We don't have one.
wow. We don't have one. Like
No.
anything that's brought up, they're like, hell no, my Second Amendment.
Yeah. Like, yeah, and what I'm not even talking about taking away guns. I'm talking about a database of people
Right.
who own guns. Like, you're not even allowed to have that.
But is
Like,
that like a law that we're not allowed to have it, or they just
it's a
would
law. No, it's
not?
a law that we're not allowed to have it.
Huh.
I don't know why. I mean, I just read that somewhere, but
Well, I'm sure if it's not part of the Second Amendment, which I don't think it would be, if it's a law, it was done by gun lobbyists,
yeah,
which would make
probably.
sense because
Yeah.
the NRA spends a lot of money to make sure that people can still own guns.
Yeah, without being on
Um,
a database.
right.
Yeah.
Which is
So,
a problem, I think, because I don't think there's anything wrong with us knowing who owns guns.
right. Well, yeah, and that's not, yeah, and I don't
But
have a problem with that either. But I mean, that's where the lines get fuzzy. It's like
right,
you can't pick one database and not another.
right,
So, anyway, the point of this whole conversation is, I mean, isn't it funny that that's going to be what tips MAGA in the other direction?
right, of course, yeah.
Like it's not the uh open defiance of the Constitution. It's, oh, they got my number now.
Right. Which
Like,
is okay. Where I work now, I have to scan people's IDs a lot, right?
mm,
Um, and they hate it. Like a lot of people are like, why?
mm.
I don't want anybody having my
Yeah,
information. And I'm
yeah.
like, listen, I get what you're saying, but
Hmm.
also,
They
who
already
the
have
fuck
it.
cares about, you are like literally nobody. And
Hmm.
I'm not saying that to be mean, but just like
Hmm.
the government doesn't really care about me. They're not going to be tracking
Right.
every move that I make until I do something bad, I guess.
But now
But
they already have it.
yeah,
Elon
everybody
already
uses
did
their
it.
credit card and everything. I get
Yeah.
that they have it. I think the problem here is that all the agencies are going to be sharing that information and compiling like
Just
a
to make more
folder
money.
on
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Whatever makes them more money. That's always the bottom line.
And
But
it
it,
can be used for political gains, like
mhm,
anyone who runs for office now,
all kinds of
the government
reasons.
has access to like all their information.
Because
It's
information is
scary.
power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think before I know that people have my information, but I wasn't concerned of people using it
yeah.
nefarious
And neither
in the
am
government,
I.
But
Yeah,
now with Trump, I don't trust him with my information.
exactly. Yeah, that's one thing. But yeah, and another thing too is like we are very open about how we feel about these policies.
Right.
And that is looking more and more like it could hypothetically come back to hurt us,
Right.
with the stories of people traveling overseas and then having their phones searched just to look for a reason to detain you for whatever reason. I mean, that's
Right.
kind of scary. And there's more and more cases like that of people being unlawfully detained. Like I think in New York City just recently there was a mother and her 12-year-old daughter were visiting from some South American country because it was, and because I Googled it and all of the articles were in Spanish.
Okay.
And I was like, why aren't any, English speaking news outlets like covering this, which
Right.
was frustrating that like
'Cause I haven't
only,
heard of this. I don't know what you're talking
I think
about.
it's Honduras. I think I kept it open. Let me see. No, that's, hold on, Honduras tour. It was a tourist from Honduras. And she had her 12-year-old daughter with her. And no, I guess it wasn't Honduras. I just looked it up. But hold on, let me pause and find it. sorry, it was Chile. Her name was Javiera Montero. She was visiting with her 12-year-old daughter. This was like, I don't know, yesterday or 2 days ago. It was like very recent. Her 12-year-old daughter was left alone on the street. They took the mother into custody for 8 hours. She did literally nothing wrong.
They
Like,
just left her 12-year-old on the street
yes,
in a
in New York
city, in a
City.
country that she's not familiar with.
Yeah, like she could have been kidnapped and
So
just
this is not
gone.
the first story we've heard of
Mm-mm.
of a child being left on the street like this.
Yep.
Because remember we talked about on the last episode, also a 12-year-old or 11-year-old being left behind
Yeah.
and the community finding him.
Yep.
This was a
This.
boy, not a tourist. So
Hmm.
not the same family. This is two separate incidents
Yeah.
at least.
Yep. It's really hard to keep track because these things are happening more and more. And it's no surprise when ICE has been so emboldened with zero oversight under this terrible administration that, they can target civilians and tourists out in public with no consequences, right? And it's looking more and more dire, but we gotta keep things positive here on the pod.
Right.
So I'm gonna talk a little bit about what happened in San Diego and in Minneapolis, right? So then San Diego, you know more about that than I do. It was like
So what I know about it is it's a popular Italian restaurant. Yes,
mhm,
Italian restaurant.
mhm,
And ICE showed up and pretty much detained everybody there. But the community found out what was happening and
mhm,
they showed up and they were like, this is not okay.
mhm,
Um, it got pretty heated. Now, the protesters, the people that were against ICE, were not being aggressive at all. They were just shouting and yelling.
mhm,
And yes, they were calling them bad words. Woohoo.
mhm. Get over
They
it.
retaliated with oh my God, what do you call those? Those like bombs that go off, but
Oh
they're like
yeah.
sound
Flash bombs?
flash bombs. Thank you. They retaliated with those. And like this is like a middle of the day public area. Not
Mhm.
everybody there was protesting. There's a video of a mother like going into the another restaurant across the street and like hiding, and you hear her children crying, saying like,
Oh.
"Mom, you said everything was going to be okay, that nothing was happening," and they're scared. So they're traumatizing everyone by doing this. And I think what happened is they took everybody in that restaurant, um, and detained them,
Mhm.
and a majority of them were here legally and
Yeah.
had like student visas and things
Mhm.
of that sort. So they ended up only being able to keep like three of them, but they detained them for hours or
And this
days.
is
I don't even know now.
This is because the Trump administration is saying they want to see 3,000 arrests a day and they want to deport over 1 million people. I forgot what the number was, but it was like, I think it was like within 1 year, they want 1 million people deported,
And
which,
it's not criminals.
yeah,
That's the thing. Do
they're
not
going to
think they're
hearings.
criminals. They're going to
Yeah.
hear. Yes, I know someone personally who I found out yesterday that my husband told me she's been detained and she's, going to be deported. Um,
Did they get her at her hearing?
she went to a hearing. Yeah, she went to immigration hearing, and
Because
that's
she's
where they
doing
found.
it the right way.
Right. Yeah. She's
That's
trying to do
awful.
it the right way, and they
Yeah.
detained her at her hearing.
Yeah. This
So
is,
she's got a daughter here. Her husband is here, obviously. And then the person that I know her through voted for Trump.
oh,
I was like, that's
did they
like,
say anything about that? Or did they
well, that's
just,
how we found out is that that's happening because
mhm,
this person is trying to find like an attorney to help her and stuff. But in my
mhm.
head, I'm like, this is what you voted for. Like, I cannot stop saying it to the people I know. Like, I told you guys. I I warned you. I don't think I was, did I not scare you enough? Like this is exactly what I said was going to
And you
happen.
know what else you said, which you sum it up perfectly, is why does it have to affect you personally before you can care about it? And
Right.
that's unfortunately how a lot of human beings operate. Not all of them. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, like sometimes for certain situations, like I have to be affected personally to understand, right?
Right.
Not in this situation. Like I can use my empathizing skills and my critical thinking skills to see how electing a man who says he's going to do these things would be wrong, but I guess you can't say that for every person.
No, no. And I think a lot of it, okay, because I know these people, right? And I know they're not bad people, but in
Yeah.
their head, they bought the lie that it
Yeah.
was just going to be criminals, bad people. And so I kept telling people, like, you don't understand. When they say bad people, they mean me. They mean my family members. They mean my cousins. They mean anybody who looks brown. And
Yeah.
I'm white passing enough that I really don't
Hmm.
worry about, like, oh, I'm going to get pulled over and stuff. But I'm also still Hispanic looking,
Hmm.
so I know that I'm still at risk.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I worry more for my nieces that are browner than I am and
Hmm.
who aren't white passing at all. I worry for my friends, and I'm like, how did you ever think that when they're talking about people being criminals, they're not talking about white people in the same
No.
way? Like there's criminals amongst every race,
Hmm. Yeah.
everyone. So
Yep.
why is it only suddenly brown racists, brown rapists? That's all that exists,
I don't
No.
understand that. Yeah, and you're right that they bought the lie that Trump used to um to villainize a whole group of people as being criminals, right? Uh because it's there I guess like the majority of people are susceptible to cults, you know? I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know why we aren't. And I'm not trying to sit here and say I'm better than you because I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. But there is a whole study on cults, right? And
right.
MAGA is a cult.
You
That's
can't
all.
convince me otherwise.
Yeah. I don't know. Remember we talked about Andre Hernandez Romero, the gay Venezuelan makeup
Yes,
artist.
yes.
I think he's still in CCOT. But he's one of the cases that has been like highlighted more so than
Mhm.
others, which is good, but also like it makes me think like, okay, let's not forget the thousands of other hundreds of thousands, maybe. I don't know how many it is at this point because like reporting is hard to do
Right.
accurately, but like it's not just a handful of people anymore.
No.
It's not just Andre Romero and Kilmer Garcia, Abrego
Right.
Garcia.
Obrego. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's thousands of people, mothers being separated from their children and fathers being separated from who have been like providing for their families, who have been building apartment complexes, like construction workers that have the complete construction crews have been are completely gone now. Like who's going to build that apartment complex now?
Right. Right.
And they're paying their taxes.
I think people now, I think that's woken up a lot of people. And they're seeing that, okay, it's not just bad people. They just arrested a 18-year-old in Massachusetts.
I saw
Um,
that. I was going to bring that
he
up.
is an honor roll student. He was about to graduate high school or have his graduation. They got him off a school bus, on his way to a volleyball game.
Oh, that's terrible.
Okay. And I don't understand how that happened because they were looking for his dad apparently.
Yeah.
So why were they on a school bus looking for him? I don't know. That's weird. Maybe I got some mixed information there, but they arrested him. He was held in a detention center that's meant to be for only 72 hours, and he was held there for 6 days. He finally got released, and he came out and spoke to the news, and he said, there I was in there with a bunch of, men, hardworking men. These are family men. They're all scared. They don't know what's happening. He says this young man speaks Portuguese, Spanish, and English, right? He's been here since he was 5. This is all he knows is Massachusetts. He's like, this is my home. This is what I know. So while he was in there, because he's fluent in English, because he
Mhm.
grew up here,
Right.
um, he was like one of the people helping to translate for the
Wow.
other guys. And he said a lot of the times all the paperwork is in English, and they would be like, "Hey, can you read this for me? Because I don't want to sign something that I don't
Yeah.
understand."
Yeah.
And he would have to like break it down to them like it doesn't matter what you sign. This is saying they're deporting you, And he's like, these were men leaving
Well,
their families, their children, families that rely on their income to
that's
survive.
so traumatizing for that
Do you,
young
yes.
man. How old
exactly.
was
You
he?
know,
He's 14,
18.
18.
18. Yeah. He was
Oh.
just graduated. He missed his graduation. And so we were talking about people showing up and like protesting and like speaking out when during his graduation. Oh, I get chills. When
Oh, I know. I know what you're gonna say because I read the whole thing and I've already cried about it. So
the kids graduated and went straight from walking from the graduation to the courthouse or wherever they go,
hmm
protesting, holding signs in their cap and gowns. There
hmm
were like 500 people, and they were all there speaking up on behalf of this young man because he's a good kid.
Oh,
Where's the crime? You know,
yeah.
like what else do you want? He's an honor roll student. He
hmm
was supposed to play the drums at the graduation. He's
Really?
on the volleyball team. Like what more do you want from a young man?
Yeah. Who
And
has
then to
been here
do
since
this,
he was 5 years old.
yes. And literally it's you could see like the ripple effects of how it's ruining other people's lives and days because now every kid that graduated in that class,
hmm
their graduation has been ruined basically because that day sat heavy for them. All they were thinking about is their classmate who they cared for and got along with. You know, he wasn't
hmm
someone that they were like, oh, I'm so glad they picked him up, you know?
hmm
Yeah, that video, when I saw that,
There
and
he
you,
is right there. Yeah.
yep, and I'm gonna show you the video of when he was released and what he had to say because
hmm
it's it's important that people hear this. Can you
Right.
imagine leaving your graduation, leaving in your cap and gown? I love the statement that made, by the way.
hmm
Like that is, I think, a powerful statement to see
Yes.
all these
Yeah.
kids in their cap and gown
hmm
going to, protest and demand the release of this young man. Um,
hmm
but it's sad because it ruined
Their graduation.
their graduation. Yeah.
I think we're seeing more and more of this like we saw in San Diego. We saw it in Minneapolis recently too when a Reddit thread leaked the location and time of a potential ICE raid. So like Minneapolis just showed up. They're like, "We're here." And the video I saw, I wonder if I can find it. They're like kicking shit and just like really leaning into it. Let me see if I can find it.
Is it
Minneapolis.
one where they're standing and they're like, and the people are in like the army suits or whatever you call uniforms with whole headgear on, riot gear,
Yeah,
and they're
I think
picking up? I love that video.
yeah.
If it's that one, I absolutely love it. Let me see if I have it.
All these videos are so long. Um, Let me pause for a minute. Yeah, I think what you were saying is right. It was like there's the army tank in the back. Yeah.
Yes.
And just like a bunch of people showed up and started like kicking things. There they are kicking it.
Yeah.
Like throwing trash cans in the middle of the road. Like and I don't think that anyone was detained. And I don't know if it's because I don't know why it's not. Um, it's a little blurry, but I don't know if it's because of that raid or not, or sorry, because of the response of the Minneapolis community. But there were no detentions during that, I don't think. So
Good. I mean, hopefully they were like, yeah, there's too many witnesses and this is
Mhm.
not going to go well.
I don't know. Yeah, but when you hear about stuff like that, it makes, it brings me back anyway to the whole George Floyd times where like, they were shooting kids with rubber bullets and, tear gassing people and and these were nonviolent protests that turned violent due to later now that we know due to people in tight causing violence because they wanted to turn it into a violent protest like such as reports of police officers throwing bricks through windows to make
Right.
it look like that the nonviolent protesters were protesting
Yeah.
and so that's kind of makes me think about like a possibility and like are we headed in that direction as a country and
Look
it
at this
seems like we
one.
are. What's
This
that?
is Texas, which I
Uh-huh.
was shocked to see. They're
Oh
blocking an
yes.
ICE van.
Yes. That's amazing. When was that?
This was in April.
Yeah.
So,
hmm See, and that's what you got to do. If you're in a a populated place and you see that, don't just stand around, see if you can get the people around you to join in on and just link arms.
Yeah,
So that kind of reminds me of what Greta, it's like it's symbolism, but it's also activism because that's what Greta Thunberg is doing.
right,
Because she is, if you listeners don't know what I'm talking about, she's either on her way or already there. I think we would have heard about it by now if something happened, but she's on a boat on her way to Palestine with like not very much supplies, but like fresh water and food and medicine, I think. Because the boat that was supposed to deliver all of this aid was called the Conscience, was blown up by Israeli Defense Forces. A boat carrying aid for Palestinians was blown up, and I'm pretty sure people died. And so Greta Thunberg's response was, okay, well, I'm going to get on another boat and I'm going to do the same exact thing. And
right,
some people are like, well, what is she doing? She's not going to make any difference. It's the symbolism of it. She's
right.
basically daring them to bomb her boat. Like,
Because she knows that if they do, she's someone who is going to draw attention.
exactly. Like the bravery
Yeah,
of that woman
it shows.
just blows my mind.
Yeah.
So in the early morning, I've got the story now. Early morning on May 2nd, wow. Oh yeah, May 2nd. A vessel from the Gaza Freedom Flotilla carrying 16 to 30 international human rights activists and humanitarian aid destined for the Gaza Strip was attacked by drones in international waters off the coast of Malta. The incident occurred approximately 14 to 17 nautical miles from Malta, outside of its territorial waters. There's
Which,
not yet independent confirmation of the nature of the incident, although Cyprus responded by dispatching a rescue boat and the armed forces of Malta sent a patrol boat to assist with extinguishing the fire and potentially rescuing those on board. Okay, so maybe people didn't die.
but international waters.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they allowed to get away with
Mm,
attacking a boat in international waters?
I don't know. Yeah.
That's the thing that baffles me. Like, why is no one checking them
Mm-hmm.
for that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not like an act of war, a war
Yeah.
crime,
Yeah,
something.
I think,
Like,
and I have seen that Netanyahu and others, I think Putin um have been charged with war crimes by the what's it called? European Union.
the UN?
Yeah,
Oh,
the UN.
no,
United
United
Nations. You're
Nations.
right. You're right.
Okay,
United Nations. Um, but there's something that I still don't quite understand. But when I talk to Blake about it, who has a better grasp on this kind of stuff, because I guess he knows a little bit more about it, and I'm trying to educate myself, but there's just so
this
much
is why we have to go to Harvard.
what?
This is
Yeah,
why we need to go to
right.
Harvard.
Jesus. But anyway, long story short, I don't think that United Nations has the power that we think it does.
Right.
And I don't want to say that out loud, but I guess it's true. But anyway, Greta Thunberg.
That's what I've learned. They can like impose like fees or fines,
Yeah, but it's like they're
but
not
nobody
world
pays them. It's
police.
fine.
Yeah, I
They're
don't.
like
I
medical bills, it doesn't affect your credit
right.
if you don't pay them.
All right. So as of two
Sorry,
hours
it's not funny,
ago,
but this is how I deal with stuff.
no, that makes sense. I get it. I get it. As of 2 hours ago, Greta Thunberg, Yasmin Akar, and other activists are on the Freedom Flotilla coalition. Nothing. I don't think there's anything to report. She says Israel says it's prepared for a wide range of scenarios. I don't know what that means, but this is a story to watch, people.
That's threatening to me. Like,
Yeah,
what does that mean?
yeah. No news
Scenarios
right
for
now.
what?
I don't know. No news
For
right
to
now.
allow passage for a
I
boat that has eight on it? Like, what are you worried about?
if you'd think they'd be like, okay, sure, but come on in,
Right.
like, what are you gonna do? Like, oh, are you threatened by the young female activist who wants to bring food to the starving children? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's
Nothing scares a grown man more than a young woman
a powerful young woman, scares the shit out of them.
every time.
Anyway, so what does this all have to do with Stonewall, you ask, or might not ask, or you might be asking? I thought this episode was about pride. It is. I promise you it relates because of everything that we're seeing with the community in Minneapolis and San Diego and Texas, where you showed the video of the linking arms. Um, People are pissed off and communities are no longer standing on the sidelines videoing. Now they're doing something, right? And that is where the book Stonewall comes in. Which I'm not going to give a deep dive on this book, but I will say that this is a real life banned book. Like, it is for real. Like, the actual book that I'm holding in my hands was removed from a classroom in Flagler County.
Oh,
This,
here.
yes, this was in a classroom, and it was removed because of the Stop Woke Act. There's actually a little sticker in it that says, I'm gonna basically summarize it, but this book was purchased by funds from a car dealership, the Beaver Toyota car dealership, awarded funds to teacher Abby Cook, who then used those funds to buy books of diverse topics that featured diverse characters and were written by authors from different, diverse backgrounds, right? And it says representation matters as we all bring different perspectives to the table. So that's why this book was put into her classroom. But this book is no longer allowed in those classrooms. I think this was a book along. She gave me, that teacher that I'm speaking of, gave me like 50 different books that no longer, fit the description of books that were allowed
Right.
in public schools.
That she knew was a risk to keep in her classroom.
Yeah. So this is one of those poor books that should be in a classroom educating students, but instead I'm reading it
Right.
for me. But it does a really good job. It's really accessible at explaining things. It has like a glossary in the back that like explains words that kids might not be familiar with, like uprising, immigrants, transgender,
Well,
resistance.
you already mentioned all the trigger words that has
I
this book.
know, right? Gay.
Uprising, transgender,
Yep.
immigrant.
Hmm.
Yeah, we can't have kids learning about that.
So,
Not in Florida.
right, especially, yeah. That's why I want to talk to Rob Sanders so bad, but because he's the author of this book, and it was illustrated by Jamie Kristoff, and beautiful illustrations.
Let
It's
me see one. I can't see it.
I'll
I
show
haven't seen
you.
this book.
Hold on, I
Okay.
want to show you one that I want to show you one that looks, I'm like hesitant to say this, but it kind of looks like Donald Trump if Donald Trump were younger, healthier, and gay, right? Which, whatever. But doesn't that look like Donald Trump?
Yes.
Okay.
Funny that you mentioned that. Have you seen? Okay, it's a little off topic. Hold on. What is this
Okay.
guy's name? Hold on. I gotta find him. His name is Branson Gates, and I've seen like him do like at least three videos where he's using Trump Trump's voice, like an actual recording of Trump saying something,
Let's see it.
and just showing how gay the things that he says are. So hold on, let me turn my
Okay.
volume up.
But Arnold Palmer was all man. And I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough.
Oh my God.
And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I had to say it. I had
Oh
to say
my
it.
God.
But Arnold.
Oh
Hey,
my God. The
hold
way
on,
he
there's
rolls his eyes in the back of his
yes.
head.
And now you see, like when you hear Trump talk about something like that, immediately you're gonna think of this guy. At least for me, that's all it's gonna do.
No,
There's
yeah,
another
Trump says a
one.
lot of gay shit for sure.
Yes, where he was talking about like some guy in the audience, and he's like, "Have you seen this man in the audience? He's attractive and he's good looking." And I'm like, "That's pretty gay."
Can you imagine a timeline where Trump it would be like comfortable with his sexuality and was like an empathetic person and he was like a gay icon in like Hollywood and he never ran for president, but he was like a gay rights advocate. Like I could totally see it in a different timeline.
Right.
If he just like had a better childhood, maybe his parents were more loving. I don't know.
Oh, here it is. Hold on. Let me play it for you because it's funny. So you see what I mean?
Mhm.
It's
I'll kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. Not with a lot of enjoyment, but that's okay. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman.
You can't like that's he doesn't even have to create the content.
But like MAGA's cheering for that. Like suddenly they're okay with a man kissing another man because Trump is doing it
MAGA
or
is not
saying he's
paying
gonna do
attention.
it.
They're not paying
Like,
attention. Well, I guess, yeah, that's what a cult is.
so you see how easy it would be for you guys to be okay with gay people?
Yes.
It's
You are, you
you're
just
okay
don't
with
realize
it.
it. Yeah.
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 It's just at the same time, that
Mm-hmm.
same man is telling you, no, gay is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I guess they claim they're okay with gay, right? Even though the laws and everything they pass
Mm-hmm.
don't really coincide
Mm-mm.
with that statement, but they're definitely not okay with
They're not
transgender.
thinking as much as you're thinking.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
But
way less thinking going on.
yes. Put your
Okay.
thinking cap on, guys, please.
Yeah, we need to put our thinking caps back on. Yes. And we can do that together by reading banned books, right?
Yeah.
So reading books help us with our critical thinking skills. This book is particularly amazing because it's from the perspective of a building. Like the building is speaking. So you can see
Okay.
here, this building, the Stonewall building. I didn't know this when I read the book, so I don't know if you knew this or not, but this Stonewall building was a two-story horse stable, like
Okay. I
in
did not
Greenwich. Okay, in Greenwich Village, New York, in the 1840s. It existed to house the horses of rich people. Rich people horse houses, essentially. That's how the Stonewall building started.
know.
Then, like all things, especially in New York, they over, evolved over time, and Greenwich became a neighborhood for immigrants as the rich people moved out. They're like, we're out of here. It's not as cool anymore. So the immigrants moved in. And by 1930, the horse building was a restaurant called Bonnie's Stonewall Restaurant. And then this was like the beginning of the beat movement, which something I didn't know, but it's in the glossary. It tells you it's a movement. I think it started in the 50s in
Okay.
in New York, where it was like an American social and literary movement, where like a lot of creative types, like artists and musicians, would come together and just be themselves in this area in Greenwich, right? So it was a place where you could be yourself, where being different was welcomed and accepted. Excuse me. And that includes, different races, which
Right.
about a very racist time here. We're talking about the 1930s, a place where, Black people and white people could sit and have a meal together, and talk about creative stuff. Um, so by the 1950s, it was really hopping with lots of poets and artists. And that is when it went under renovations to become the nightclub, the 1960s nightclub, the Stonewall Inn, which was specifically for gay men. But that didn't mean that only gay men went. Like all kinds of people went. But I think it was like known as a place that was safe for gay men to go to, right? Um, it didn't have any running water. It was like really run down. It was just like a place that you could go and you could dance and you could be with people who accepted you for who you were. And then, as word got out that that's what it was being used for, there were more and more police raids. And, they happened quite often. And most of the time, these raids consisted of people just sort of standing by and being like, well, I wasn't one of the ones that got arrested for not having my ID or for I don't even know what they would just arrest them for no reason.
Right. They would just find like random reasons to stop people,
For dressing up like
like they
a
do today.
yeah, dressing up like a woman. Because I guess I don't know what the laws were exactly back then, but
Suspicious activity, you
yeah,
know?
right, right, right. And so this is how this book, I chose this book to cover on this episode, one being that it's Pride Month, but two being that I can see the parallels with the ICE raids and the community stepping up, because this is what this book was about. So let me find it. I'm just going to read the page right here. So this is the turning point in the book. So you can see it's a
Okay.
group of people standing outside the Stonewall Inn after police raided. So it says, this time, those not arrested didn't disappear into the night. Instead, they stood defiantly in the street and on the sidewalk under our rusty sign. This time, they weren't quiet. As the ones arrested were led to police cars and patrol wagons, the anger of the growing crowd was lit. Why don't you do something? Yelled one woman as she was forced into a police car. And then essentially they did something. Immediately, the spark of anger grew into a smoldering resistance. Shouts and screams echoed off bricks, fists thrust in the air. We saw the faces of the crowd and felt their rage. The Stonewall Uprising had begun. The police, shocked by the defiance of the crowd, rushed back in and barricaded themselves inside. So they were scared. The police went inside and then they called for backup. And of course, backup came. But it was the beginning of the LGBTQ plus rights movement. And
Right.
so and it began because people decided to speak up.
Yeah. People love to complain about protesters and it's there's, they always find a way that it's not the right way. If you kneel, it's not the right way. If you
Right.
sit in, it's not the right way. If you yell, it's not the right way. But it is the right way. Uprisings have always had outcomes, good outcomes, positive changes. Through history, we see that all the time.
Mhm.
That is one example, a great example of how an uprising caused change.
And that reminds me, what you just said reminds me of when we on Dr. King Day, when we covered the letter from a Birmingham jail. That's what Dr. King said. Like you're telling me to do it a certain way, and every time I try to do it the way that you tell me to do it, it doesn't work. So now I'm going to do it my way.
Right.
And this is, you're talking about the man who is the face of peaceful, nonviolent protest. And here he is in jail sitting, saying like this, it's not working because you're taking advantage of us.
Right.
And
And
so
I'll say on that, sorry,
mm,
I've seen like a lot of videos of how to prepare for protests, and you'll see people saying like things that you need, like, have a face covering, that'll keep gases out, help minimize it. This is what you need in your bag, in case you get sprayed. Um, Lots of things, right? And if you're looking at it, you're thinking they look like they're preparing to start a fight, right?
mhm,
But really, if you know how protests go, what they're preparing for is for the police to retaliate with violence.
yeah,
They're not going with the purpose of starting violence. They're
this
going
isn't
prepared for the police to bring violence.
because this isn't their first rodeo, or if it is, it's not their parents or their friends' first rodeo. And they're like, listen, we got to be prepared for this thing. And
Right.
God, what does that remind me of? It was something we just was it The Hate You Give? Yeah, The Hate You
Yeah,
Give.
that's,
Because there was a whole scene in that movie, which is also a book. I don't think we covered that, or did you cover that book?
I think we did.
I think it was one that you covered.
Yeah. I think,
But that reminds me of the scene in the movie where they have a jug of milk
yeah,
ready because they know they're gonna need to pour it in their eyes.
right. You don't want to pour water, you want milk.
Yeah, to neutralize the whatever in the tear gas.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what made me think of that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
and if they wear helmets and things like that, again, it's
mhm.
not because they're going to like
They
cut someone. It's
yeah.
because they know they're going to have rubber bullets
Mhm.
thrown their way. They're going to be hit with
Even if they're
batons.
just standing there
Yeah.
doing nothing. Ah, it's terrible. But uh let's see. So before we wrap up this episode, I think we covered the majority of everything that we wanted to talk about. Um, except for the New York lawsuit against the voter fraud in the 2024 election. Have you
Hmm.
heard anything about that?
I haven't been keeping track, so
Okay.
let
So
me know
it's
what's going on.
apparently it's all over TikTok that, and this is true, a lawsuit was filed in a certain county in New York, uh, saying that the election results in this county are suspicious, right? And they need to be thrown out. And so this caught my attention because it's like numbers like this, like you can't deny that there's something weird going on, right? So in a district where it was a Senate race too, right? So we had the Senate candidate who was a woman. Of course, I don't know her name. Let me look it up. Hold on. Okay, her name is Diane Sare, Sare. I don't know. But anyway, this was Rockland County, New York, and it was a Senate race against Kristen Gillibrand and Michael Sapracchione, something like that. Um, but from what I read, Diane Sare, the Senate candidate, she didn't win, right? She didn't think she was gonna win, right?
Okay.
But she started looking at the election results and she's like, something is fishy, right? So she's working with a group called Smart Elections. It stands for something. I don't know what it stands for, but it's like I looked it up. It's a legit nonprofit organization that is devoted to finding voter fraud and, fixing it, I guess.
Okay.
So it's legit, right? This is an actual lawsuit that is moving forward, meaning it hasn't been thrown out for being just like, silly. Like
Okay.
it's being taken seriously, right? So the reason that it looks so weird is because in they looked at the different precincts in Rockland County. So Kristen Gillibrand, the Democratic Senate um, candidate, got 79% of the vote in one particular precinct, right? And the Republican candidate got 20% of the vote. Um, but what's weird about these is that, hold on. Oh, Diane Sarr didn't get any percent of the vote. She got zero, right? And so she knows like people in this precinct that voted for her. And she's like, why does it say zero? So that's, like immediately that's a red flag. You're like, hold on a second. And so she gets these sworn affidavits from people. And I think some, including her own daughter, it's like, I voted.
Oh, okay. So definitely her daughter voted for her.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what it said. You know what? Scratch that. It may have been a different thing, but I thought I read somewhere that it was like
Okay.
either her relative or someone close to her. But either way, even if it wasn't her daughter, it was they're sworn affidavits, meaning like you can get in trouble if they find out that you're
Right.
lying, right? And
Right.
so she's like, listen, I have these affidavits saying that these people voted for me, but it says zero, right? And so she's looking further into the case, right? And in one particular precinct, Kristen Gillibrand, the Democratic candidate, got 95% of the vote, right? In the same precinct, Kamala Harris got 0.2% of the vote.
Oh,
So when you hear that, you're like, oh my God. And then you pair that you pair that with Elon Musk's tweets saying, I helped him win the election. He's so ungrateful, and all the other shit that he said, and all the shit that Trump has said. Elon, he did a great job. He won this race for me. Couldn't have done it without the machines.
he's said it several times. He's
Yeah.
had that slip up.
Right. So it's normal for anyone to be like, oh yeah, sure. Voter fraud. Kamala Harris should be president. Let's get this show on the road. Let's get rid of Trump. Let's put Kamala where she belongs. Like that, that's part of our human
Right.
nature to be like, yes, let's do it.
And we also know that when Trump is like, he projects a lot. So if he's accusing other people of doing something,
Right.
very likely he's the one who's done it.
Yeah. What's the
It's,
old saying? Those who smelt it dealt it.
yes. I thought you were going to say those who point a finger have three pointing back at them,
Nope. I'm going
but
with
I
the
like
old
yours
fart joke.
better.
Oh man. But anyway, this is not just like in one precinct, it goes on. In another precinct, Donald Trump got 99% of the votes.
That's really high.
Where yeah, and Kamala Harris got like two. Anyway, it doesn't look good, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm super excited to see
Yeah.
this until I open up my Substack from Sharon McMahon, who is a very, I hate, she's very smart. She's a lot smarter than me.
Right.
And she's like, guys, it isn't what it seems like. I'm like, no. So
What is her
essentially,
explanation of it?
and I had to pay for this goddamn Substack because I usually just read her free shit. And this one wasn't fucking free. And so I'm like, okay, it's $8 a month. I'm gonna pay for 1 month. I can't afford this shit. You know what kind of economy we're living in? Okay, so I spent the $8 to read her research. I guess I could have done, I don't have time to do all of the hours of digging through the data like she did, which is, how
Which is
she's
why it's
making
easier
her
to
own
spend the
money.
money and just,
Exactly.
right.
This is her job, right? She's just really smart and she deserves all of her Substack subscribers. But anyway, she started looking at the same districts in 2020 to see, to just compare them, right? And in the same districts, Biden got 0% of the votes and Trump got 100% of the votes, whereas the Democratic candidates for the House of Representatives and the Senate both won. And you might be thinking, how in the hell is that possible? Or like
Well,
me,
I'm
it
thinking
happened then too.
that's my first thought. Like
Well,
we know he was already talking about fraud back then.
mhm.
So
And if we go back to those who smelt it, dealt it, then it makes perfect sense.
yeah,
So there, that could be
does
a
he go further back?
possibility. That no, she didn't go further back. She stopped there because this
Ask
is
for
what,
your refund. She didn't do enough research.
yeah. Listen, this is $8 of research.
I expected you to go further back, ma'am.
But no, so she says it's not a conspiracy or election fraud because she looked at the demographics of these districts. Again, she's a very smart woman. And she found that these districts are overwhelmingly ultra Orthodox Jews who tend to vote as a bloc based on guidance from their community leadership. So, Hasidic Jews describe voting as very important to the community. It's whatever the leaders say, we vote. It's not for us to decide. So it's, religious groups following their own beliefs, and that, like, hey, if my leader of whatever tells me to do this, I'm going to do it because I made the choice to be a member of this religious community. Well, I hopefully.
Which that is kind of weird too. Not saying weird that they do it, but
Mhm.
isn't that why they don't get taxed? Because they don't get involved
Right.
in politics.
That's a
So
whole nother thing. True.
yeah, I'm not
I think
saying
they
don't
should be
do it,
taxed,
but I'm
but
saying we should be taxing you.
right, for sure. 100%. But here's where she doesn't explain this. She kind of just leaves it at that because she's got I mean, it's a crazy world out there. She's got to report on all kinds of other things. She actually talks about the Lord of the Rings Palantir thing too, if you want some information about that. I might actually keep my $8 a month just so I can be informed.
And I will say too, I think her research, I'm not saying it's not valid, but it doesn't address the people who say they voted for her.
Right, and that's what
Show up
she
as
said.
not voting
She
for her.
she ended the Substack with basically a paragraph saying, like, I can't say why some people told her that they voted for her to her face, but that didn't correlate with the vote in the booth. I certainly can't say there were zero irregularities with counting of the votes, but because anything that is counted can have discrepancies between one tally and the next, but there does not appear to be a reason to think that she was robbed of the election or that anyone who bested their opponent was denied office. She is very much like like she does not believe
Don't get too excited.
well, no, that, and also she doesn't believe that voter fraud can happen on such a large scale.
Right. And honestly, that would be my take as well
Mhm.
before Elon Musk.
Right. Oh, I think it can totally happen.
Before, like suddenly I'm like, okay, I buy into this conspiracy because
Mhm.
you're telling me this billionaire with access to Starlink, and it turns out Starlink was used in some of the election sharing
Mhm.
of information. I don't know how any of that shit works,
Mhm.
but it went through Starlink, and
Right.
he has control of Starlink,
For sure.
and he's not a trustworthy person. Like I do not
Exactly.
trust him.
100%. But
So,
I agree 100%. But Sharon makes a good point here with the demographics being overwhelmingly ultra Orthodox Jew.
yeah.
And I just did a quick Google search, and here's an article that says nearly 3/4 of Orthodox voters supported Trump. Why? I don't know. Because what's so weird about this is that the general Jewish population is overwhelmingly Democratic, yet nearly 3/4 of Orthodox voters supported Trump, and the precincts that are being investigated for their suspiciousness are Orthodox communities. So,
Hmm.
so that, I mean, that kind of, to me, is like, okay, case closed. Like, they voted for Gillibrand, but they didn't vote for Trump. Or sorry, but they didn't vote for Kamala. Like,
Right.
why they voted for Trump, I don't know. I would have to do a little bit more research, but we're pushing an hour on this episode already. So.
Yeah. All right. I mean, you have more faith in this
No,
lady than I do.
I'm still waiting. It's just a different precinct, Jennifer.
Right. I don't
It's,
know. I'm still gonna say something suspicious is going on.
well, that's why they
Hopefully
didn't
they
throw the
find it.
lawsuit. That's why they didn't throw out the lawsuit.
Yeah.
So we can still follow the lawsuit and see where it goes.
Right.
Um, But
I mean, more than likely, I could see it not going anywhere just because
mhm.
even if they do find, like, yes, there was fraud, nothing's gonna happen. Like, that's my mindset is nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, Elon and Trump rigged the election, but you know what? We're just gonna let them do it because,
It's
you
too
know,
late now,
what can we do? Because,
We've
we're
already named him
Democrats.
king.
We're just gonna be like really middle of the road here because that's what makes us cool. And we're just gonna let Trump, see out these next 3 years and it'll be fine.
Or maybe next 7 or
Yeah, but you
indefinitely.
know what? If he wants to do it again, we're really middle, so it's
What
fine.
could happen? Just let him
Nothing.
do it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Anyway, don't
Deep
ban
breaths.
books.
And bigots. This episode has been engineered and mixed by your hosts, Jennifer and Courtney.
You can listen to the Milford Books podcast on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, or literally any podcast app you want.
Check out our Milford Books YouTube page. That's MILF, the number 4, books. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Follow the show on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and Blue Sky at MILF for Books. Again, that's MILF, the number 4, books. But follow us on TikTok at Moms into Literary Freedom.